Hey everybody, Tekking101 here, and it's been a while since we've done one of these. I don't know if you're familiar with the concept, but these are the what-if scenario videos, where we take a look at the One Piece series and wonder, what could have been? What if Ace never bought that necklace? What if Luffy's straw hat was not made out of straw, but in fact... I don't know, marshmallows. You know, these are the hard-hitting questions that the One Piece fans need to know. Today, we are looking at, if Gold D. Roger never was executed. Aw, come on, nobody wants to know about that. Okay, fine, I guess we'll talk about it. Alright, so, Gold D. Roger, the king of the pirates, absolute badass. You know, we saw him a couple chapters ago displaying his swordsmanship skills for the first time in the entire manga. Just boom! One-shotting Odin into the side of a tree. Yeah, he didn't take out Odin completely, but still, Odin, you know, he blocked it with Haki and with his two swords, Enma and Ame no Habakiri, but with one mighty one-arm slash from Roger, he just boom! Like a bullet being fired out of a gun, alright? So you don't mess with Roger. However, we all also know that he had that very serious illness, that chronic disease. We don't know what the disease was. We don't know where it came from. We just know it was this incredibly persistent disease. No doctor in the world can cure. The only one that could even keep it at bay was Crocus. I mean, the Roger pirates and Gold D. Roger himself, I mean, I'm sure they had connections, alright? They traveled the sea for a very long time. They found the best possible doctor to help them out with that particular disease, and that was Crocus. And all the best that Crocus could do was just belay the disease's spread, probably keep the symptoms at bay for as long as he possibly could, and that was only for a couple of years. Alright, for that last 3 years of the journey. After the crew discovered Laugh Tale, they found the One Piece, they let out a mighty belly laugh! Wahaha! Actually, no, Roger's laugh, as we know now, is actually like, ooh-ha-ha! Ooh-ha-ha-ha! Yes, so after they did that, they decided to go their separate ways. Roger disbanded his crew. He realized he didn't have very much time left. We even see that in the manga chapter where they go to Laugh Tale. You know, there's that scene right before they leave where he's in the privy and he's like coughing up a lung and he's like, Shanks is like, "Are you okay, Captain?" I was like, "Yeah, Shanks, I'm fine. Where's my hat? There it is. All right, let's go." You know, so he didn't have very much time left. So pretty much right after Laugh Tale, they disbanded the crew and he's like, "All right, I only got like maybe a couple months left at best." So he decided, instead of going out on his deathbed amidst like his family, basically his crew was his family, his nakama, instead of going out that way, he decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm gonna make this a big show. All right, I'm gonna go out. I'm not gonna go out with a quiet whisper. I'm gonna go out with a thunderous roar. That's how the king of the pirates his life should end. So he turns himself over to the Marines and Garp and everybody. They get the credit for that. He goes to Logtown, and, well, we all know what happens in the actual context of the manga, but this is a what-if scenario. So let's change it around just a little bit, okay? All right, okay, cool. And, there's only one way for me really to depict how this is going to go, so take it away with a triumphant return of Sock Puppet Theater. Ooh-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha! Greetings, everyone! Pirate King Gold D. Roger here! Oh, what a splendid turnout it be! You guys really didn't need to come for this. But welcome to my hometown, Logtown! Marvelous, isn't it? It's rainy, but it's also sunny back here. It's incredible! Hey, Pirate King! Where'd you keep all your treasure? Aye, thanks for asking, random guy in the crowd. I was going to talk about my long life and recite some of my favorite poetry, but instead, since you brought it up, I left all my treasure in one place, in one location. Geography is everything. Now you just gotta find it, me hearties. Alright, Pirate King Gold D. Roger, do you have any last... Oh, good lord, man! What's wrong with your face? Your eyeball is jutting out all weird. I was born like this. Aye, it's alright, matey. I myself have a chronic illness that'll eventually end my... Oh, I mean, I was captured by the Marines, which would end my existence, but it's alright, sir. Do what you gotta do. Alright, Pirate King. It's time to put an end to your reign. What's wrong, me hearty? I can't. Your mustache is just too magnificent. I can't. God!
Works every time. I am now going to head out on my own. Start my own island. My home base, as it were. I think I'll call it Roger's Base. Yarg! Oh, by the way, the mustache also cured my disease. Roger for life!
What do we do now? Yeah, I think we're supposed to head out to sea with promises of high adventure and romance. That sounds like a lot of work. Can someone else just find it? Yeah, really, can someone else just find it? I'll read the paper and stay up to date, but I'm not heading out to the Grand Line. Oh, God, no. Hey, do you have anybody selling cotton candy around here? Cotton candy, 10 berries! Yeah, that's right, we'll just eat some cotton candy! Oh my God, that was so heart-wrenching. You know, in my opinion, sock puppets truly are a greatly underappreciated form of the arts. They need to have the respect that they're due. Okay, so maybe not exactly that way, but let's say that Roger never got the illness. I think that's a good way to put it there, because if he never got the illness, there really wasn't... He would have still discovered Laugh Tale. That's just in his blood. It's just because he had the illness, it really just got him, you know, his ass moving, so to speak. He's just like, I gotta find that place before I die. Or, another way of looking at it is, he did catch the illness, but it was cured. Maybe, let's say Crocus did eventually, he's like, oh, I don't know, Roger, this is a really difficult illness. Well, and it took him a couple of years, but let's say Crocus did end up eventually discovering the cure. So that way, Roger and his final journey, that, for the most part, stays the same. Going to the different islands, you know, clashing with Whitebeard a few times, meeting Odin, going to Sky Island and the Road Poneglyphs, and going to Laugh Tale, all that stuff still happens. Let's say that right after that moment, though, after Roger discovers Laugh Tale, and it's that news spreads all over the world, big news, big news, the king of the pirates exists now. He's like, that's pretty damn cool, right? After that moment, things begin to change. Roger does not turn himself in because he knows he's not dying yet. He's in his 50s at this point. He's like 53 years old, and, you know, he feels perfectly fine. Let's say if he never had the illness or the illness was cured, he's like, I feel mighty robust today. Also going along that line of reasoning, if he's in no danger of dying, and if he's not going to turn himself in, there's really no reason for him to disband his crew. So I think in this version of events, the one big thing that would change, aside from him, you know, staying alive, is that the Roger crew would still stay active for a number of years. Now, it's very possible that eventually the crew would go their separate ways and start to retire, or it's entirely possible they might go the way of Whitebeard, where Whitebeard's crew is still very active up until his very last day on Earth. Alright, so the Whitebeard crew was still a force to be reckoned with even in the present storyline, okay? Now, if we're going to go with that idea that the reason Roger started the Great Pirate Era the way he did, the reason he turned himself in so he could get a massive crowd at his execution, so he could announce the One Piece existence and, you know, you gotta go find it, mateys! You know, he did that so he could inspire the future generations. Roger did that on purpose. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but I think the prevailing theory in a lot of ways that we can look at this, and considering what they did at Laugh Tale, and they laughed and all that stuff, and maybe it's like, well, we can't do anything quite yet. Also, remember what Rayleigh said when Rayleigh was talking to Robin about this at Shocky's bar. Rayleigh was like, yeah, we couldn't really do anything about it, or you can't do anything about it right now. We were a little bit maybe in too much of a hurry. Okay, so it implies that they arrived at Laugh Tale too early, might have something to do with Poseidon not being born yet, so they were like, all right, we might not be able to do this, but we can inspire future generations to do it as well. And the big reason why they laugh, the prevailing theory, is Roger's like, oh, well, I can't do anything until Poseidon is born, and that's not going to happen for another 10 years, and I have less than a year to live. Yo, that's so funny. We rushed to get here, and that's what happened, right? So, yeah, that seems to be the prevailing theory. It could be something else. We might be way off the mark on that, but that's the prevailing theory, so that's what I'm going to go with here. Now, Roger, I think, just the swashbuckler that he is, by the way, magnificent mustache, Barry, I couldn't do that myself, but I think that Roger is like, all right, we can wait 10 years for this, but we should also inspire the future generations. I could definitely see Roger doing that, but he would not inspire the generations the same way that he did in the storyline. Instead, he would inspire the generations by continuing his piratey deeds. He would get on board the Oro Jackson with his crew, they would sail out to parts unknown, they would make it so apparent that the Pirate King has arrived and his reign is beginning. It might still very well be called the Great Pirate Era, or it might have just been called the Age of the Pirate King. That sounds really badass, right? But the idea is, Roger, whether he died or not, would have inspired a lot of other pirates to come to the sea. And I could even see Roger proclaiming not so much as his dying wish, but rather a challenge to aspiring pirates. So instead of saying, you know, oh, I left my treasure in that one place, you just gotta find it, you know, right before he gets... Instead, he would initiate a challenge. He's like, so I'm the new Pirate King. I'm the first Pirate King. All you out there, you aspiring young pirates, you think you can take this crown from me? I await your challenge. You know, he might do that. He might break into Marineford and make that announcement. Or he might get into a huge battle that shakes the world. Or he might figure out some other way to let the world know about his challenge. But I think Roger would probably do something like that, all right? He would challenge the future generations to come and take the crown from his head, rather than discovering his treasure, you know, post-mortem. He's like, I'm still alive! I'm still here! And I'm sure that would lead to a bunch of really awesome battles, a lot of pirates, you know, I was like, I'll take Roger on, and then we could have this really cool thing where it's like Roger's still alive by the time Luffy sets out to sea and all that stuff, and we could have like, oh yeah, Roger, King of the Pirates, he's out there somewhere in the world, we don't know where he's at, but rumor has it that over 100 pirate crews, over 500 million berries bounty attacked him, and all of them were defeated, one after another. No one has bested him in all of these years. That would be really cool to like hype it up. So even without Roger being dead, you could still build him up like, oh wow, yeah, this guy's crazy, right? Now, let me just say, I'm just gonna pause right here to state that I really hope that in the current storyline of One Piece, Oda doesn't bring Roger back. I hope he doesn't do something where it's like, oh, it was a body double that died, or, you know, there's a magic ghost fruit, not Perona's ghost fruit, but, you know, some other fruit, like, that turns you into a zombie, not the fruit that turns your shadow into a zombie, you know, some kind of Deus Ex Machina. There's like, oh yeah, Roger didn't die because blibbity blue, you know, I hope he doesn't do that, the same way that's like, I mean, think about it, I mean, Naruto, Madara, he stays dead, right? No, Toriko, Acacia, he stays dead, right? He's like, they build up these characters from the past that we think are long dead, and then they finally show up in the story, and you know, like, I'll be honest with you, like, when Madara showed up in, or Madara, when Madara showed up in Naruto, we knew so much about him because all the characters talked about it and all the lore about him. When he finally did show up, we were like, oh, this is gonna be so cool. So, if Roger did do that, like if he showed up in the story like, Yarg matey, I stepped through a time portal and here I am in the present storyline, we would all be like, holy crap, that's so awesome! But at the same time, we'd be like, that kind of ruins some themes. You know, the theme of the story, like passing the torch, you know, this was my journey, now Luffy, you go. Luffy, of course, is the main character, not Roger. But it would still be really cool to see. I'm just saying, I really hope Oda personally does not do that. Okay, so we arrive at a little bit of an issue here when we think about this. If they really were just waiting for Poseidon to be born and all that stuff to happen, if Roger's not gonna die, then they could just wait until Poseidon and Shirahoshi is born, and they could just try this again in 10 years when Roger's in his 60s and Rayleigh is also in his like late 60s, and that's how they do it. Now, also keep in mind that Poseidon and Uranus and Pluton all have to be together. Maybe that's part of the thing at Laugh-Tale there. We don't know yet for certain, but we just an idea. Even if Shirahoshi was born, she was just a baby. So you might not be able to just utilize Poseidon's power in exactly 10 years when Shirahoshi is just born. You have to maybe wait a little while until she maybe gets a better handle on her abilities. So, it's still very likely that Roger would not be able to achieve the true One Piece or the true Laugh Tale. You know, he would be able to do what they were supposed to do, even if he waits the 10 years. It might be present storyline, so you could still have Luffy, you could still have the Straw Hats, you could still have all this stuff going on, and Roger would be, you know, part of the world, but he's maybe just kind of hanging out in the back a little bit. Maybe Roger is like, all right, we'll wait until the day this happens, but we're not going to be the forefront of this. Maybe when Roger starts getting older, maybe into his 60s and 70s, he's like, tell you what, I'm going to stay back here on this island, Roger's base island, and I'm going to see what the future generation does. And when the time does come that one, because I think Roger, even still being alive, he would want to see people succeed him. I think that's something that's like just with Roger's character, you know, like Roger would be like, well, I'm getting on in years, you know, even without the disease, getting into your 70s, you feel the drawn out process of age, you know, especially since you were a pirate. You spent your whole years, you know, your youth, you know, fighting and getting into all these crazy battles and injuries. Look at all the injuries Luffy sustained. Look at the injury Ace sustained. That was a pretty major injury, right? So it's like, he's probably not going to live to, like, Dr. Kureha age, you know? Like, look at Garp, look at Rayleigh. They're all really still strong in their twilight years, but they're not as strong as they used to be. So I could see Roger journeying for maybe a decade or so after he finds Laugh Tale. But when he starts getting into his 70s and he realizes, oh, maybe we have to wait longer for Shirahoshi to grow up so we could use the power, tell you what, I'm just gonna maybe at that point he would disband the crew, or at that point they would just go off to some random place and just, you know, keep track of the news, keep track of what's going on, maybe travel the world in secret or something as like just a shadow, like, oh, the Pirate King, he hasn't been heard of in these parts for over 10 years. He mysteriously vanished, and we don't know if he's even still alive. He might still be out there, though, twirling his mustache in anticipation. Something like that. That would be really cool. That way, we could still focus primarily on Luffy. By the time Luffy is 17, Luffy sets out to sea, sets up the Straw Hat crew, the 2-year time skip. All that stuff still happens with Luffy. It's just that Roger has maybe been missing. He hasn't been heard from in a while, but some people think he's dead, some people think he's still alive. And then, you know, maybe we build up Roger a little bit more. Maybe we could have a scene where Roger goes and meets Whitebeard or sees Shanks, you know, in secret or something, and then we could be reading that like, whoa, that's crazy, Roger finally showed up, he is still alive, you know, something like that. But Roger doesn't play his major card until the epic battle at Laugh Tale. When everybody arrives at Laugh Tale and the big war starts, that's when Roger, like, appears, like he's waiting in the treasure vault, and he's like, how you doing there? Ah, yes, I see. You're the one Shanks gave the straw hat to. I see. You deserve it, young man. Absolutely. Well, I'm Goldie Roger. How you doing? You know, 70, I think Roger would have been like 70. Is he the same age as Garp? Rayleigh is older than him. I think Roger would have been 77 if he was still alive today. So I was like, yeah, I'm in the ripe old age of 77, and this is my treasure. And then you can maybe have Roger, like, explain what the One Piece is. Like, he would personally... I gotta tell you, that would kind of be nice for maybe not Roger, but at least somebody from the Roger crew, maybe Scopper, somebody be present at Laugh Tale to actually explain, you know, this is what the One Piece is. This is what it does. This is what happened when we found it. This is why we couldn't use it. This is why we laughed. You know, that would be nice. If it's in the storyline right now in the present, it might very well be Scopper, or maybe they just wrote a message. You know, maybe they had like Roger asked Odin to dictate a message in the Poneglyph language of what they did when they actually got there to explain what was going on. But no, in this parallel universe, yeah, where Roger never died, maybe Roger would just... He honestly would just disappear from the world and go live on Laugh Tale, because he's the only one that knows how to get there. So he's like, he does the pirating thing for a little while, and then decides to retire, pseudo-retire, go to Laugh Tale, live there, set up his Rogers base, and just wait for someone to show up. And then when somebody finally does show up, he's like, you finally made it! You know, awesome, cool, well, let me show you around. I've been living alone on this island for 10 years, you know, expecting... I mean, like... If he wasn't going to turn himself over to the Marines, and he wasn't going to die of an illness, I could see Roger choosing to just live on the island where he discovered the One Piece and then just live on that island as like its guardian and then eventually die there of just natural causes, of just age, you know, or just his long life just caught up to him at that point. I could see that, right? You totally see that, right? So it's actually a very interesting what if scenario where, because these events kicked off the story of One Piece, you have to be careful how you tinker with them. But as I actually figured, no, you could still mess with this and have it work. Instead of just doing Roger's dying breath, he just announces a challenge, and that kickstarts the Great Pirate Era. The fact that Roger found Laugh Tale, that kickstarted it rather than his demise, right? The fact that he still might be out there waiting for someone, that could totally inspire the new generation of pirates just as much as his normal way of doing it did. You could still have Luffy and the Straw Hats do pretty much everything exactly the same. Nothing really major changes. I mean, yeah, you'd have to change a few dialogue, scripts at some point, like, not talking about Roger dying, but Roger going missing or Roger disappearing from the world. But aside from that, there's actually a lot of ways you could still do this and incorporate Roger into the story. I just don't think it's going to happen now because Oda has already come out and confirmed multiple times, Roger, he was dying. He had an illness. He couldn't be cured. He was done, and that's it. And he's done. His time has come and passed, and now it's passing the torch. Continuing the legend of that great pirate king, the romance of the open seas. That's the theme of One Piece. That's really what it's all about. And I think you could still keep it if Roger was alive, but he would have to be really pushed to the side. We couldn't have Roger still meeting all the supernovas and stuff like that. I think would screw it up a little bit. But yeah, Roger still being alive and then showing up at the very end of the story to kind of congratulate Luffy and the Straw Hats meeting them at Laugh Tale. I could see that working. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about this what if scenario, how things would go a little differently here. What Roger would be doing if right after Laugh Tale, would he still be journeying, or would he just retire? Would he go to Laugh Tale? What would be up with that? Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking101 signing out, and I appreciate you sitting around for Sock Puppet Theater. I really do have a good time making that. It is truly magnificent. That's probably what I'll do if the YouTube thing doesn't work out. I'll be the first, I'll bring sock puppetry into the big screen. Yes, I'll be the first person to make an entire feature-length film with a mighty box office budget of I don't know, Eclipse's Endgame. All with sock puppets. That is my dream. Have a good one.